Hi folks, welcome to your latest MWIS Outlook that's updated on Tuesday the 2nd of February. It remains a very wintry picture in the forecast across the mountains as we go through the rest of this week and beyond, with significant snowfalls mounting up across eastern mountains, in particular across Scotland. Most of that terrain is frozen from the glens upwards. Next few days, less cold. Further south you go, Wales and the Pennines typically above freezing to higher tops, but the longer range outlook is that cold conditions and easterly winds are likely to be with us. We'll start off with a look at the snow depth simulation, this off one of the forecast models, and quite a remarkable sequence as we go forwards. This then is the depth at any given 6-hour period on the forecast run. So it's not the ongoing accumulation, but it's sort of a snapshot at any point in time, if you like. This starting off early Wednesday, the greatest depths already in existence across the central and eastern highlands, and lying snow down across the lakes and the Pennines as well. Now things will wax and wane a little bit in the next few days, just diminishing a touch across northern England as less cold air is just around for a time, but some substantial accumulations continuing in the days ahead across central and eastern parts of the highlands. Difficult to quantify maybe exactly what's lying, because with the strength of the east or southeasterly wind it will blow about so much, and in places some colossal drifts are likely across the highlands. As we head onwards, this is to Friday, and just to take into the weekend, we start to see a little bit coming back across Wales as well, as colder air tucks in a bit more widely by this stage. But as we head into Sunday and the start of next week, it's the highlands really taking the hugest amounts, but substantial amounts, suggesting across the Lothians, the Cheviots, the North Pennines, maybe lying even further south than that. It pretty much goes off the scale on the modelling chart shown here across the eastern side of the Scottish Highlands, much of it lying to lower slopes as well, so expect there to be significant snow on the ground for a good while to come. The freezing level situation looking something like this, starting off with early on Wednesday. The scale on the bottom of this chart is the height of 0 Celsius in metres, and when we're into the pinks and the purples it's down to 200 or 300 metres, so terrain is frozen pretty much from the lowest levels upwards. Once you're into the paler blues you're above around 1,000 metres, so you're really only talking, say, the top of Snowdon for example. This is Wednesday's situation then. We have that marked boundary of cold and less cold air across the south of Scotland, just nudging onto the North Pennines with some sub-zero conditions, I would have thought. Now, not a great deal changes in that general view as we head onwards through Wednesday night into Thursday. Scotland stays within extensively frozen terrain. Less cold air hangs on across England and Wales throughout Thursday daytime. And even onwards into the later part of Thursday, we just begin to see, though, maybe some of that cold air just beginning to rotate around from the northwest across Ireland. As that story continues into Friday, that colder air and lowering of freezing level is likely to move in across northern England and Wales, getting down to 600 metres, maybe later in the day even lower than that, say 400 metres across West Wales and northwest England. Maybe a brief rise of that freezing level across the Scottish Highlands, perhaps just as less cold air is just sucked around the general rotation of low pressure across Britain. But all in all, if it lifts above freezing point by more than a fraction across the mountains, that would be surprising. So by the time we get to the weekend, the cold air is back in place across England and Wales. Slightly less cold maybe across Scotland, but still sub-zero terrain is in position. And by the time we get to later Saturday and Sunday, as easterly winds strengthen more widely and colder air is drawn in from the east, that very cold air is pretty widespread. This is how things look on the synoptic charts then. Wednesday is like this, with a couple of centres of low pressure, one just parked to the west of Ireland, another little feature off East Anglia, and the frontal zone across the south of Scotland, north of England, is what will be responsible for pretty constant precipitation. Extensively snow on its northern side, a little bit more snow and rain mix on its southern side across northern England, but it's not going too far too quickly through Wednesday and even into Thursday. North of the front, a very strong easterly wind, very gusty to low levels, gale force across the Scottish mountains most of the day. Much lighter winds in the slacker pressure pattern further south, just 1 or 2 showers coming into Wales. More or less the same area of low pressure is still circulating around on Thursday. The same front is still likely to produce constant snowfall across east and southeastern parts of the Highlands, some snow, a bit of sleet across the southern uplands, and some areas of rain across northern England with maybe a bit of snow and sleet on the highest tops. Much of it is just rain coming in as showers across Wales. Still, strongest of the easterly winds focused across the Highlands. Slight variations by Friday, still low pressure on the scene, uncertainty exactly how the shape of this develops. We do have the risk still of a powerful easterly across the Highlands. Some indications, just with this chart, taking the low a little bit further northwards, which would drop the wind out more widely. Again, we're in cold air and there's the scope for some further snowfalls coming in across the Highlands. It might just be a bit of a lull in conditions from southern Scotland southwards, but 1 or 2 areas of showers would be around. Some brighter spells for the Peak District and eastern side of the Pennines. Rather complicated into the weekend. We've got bits of fronts and low pressure around. The easterly flow is still across to the north of Britain. That likelihood of further snowfall coming into eastern mountains in Scotland. A few bits of showers elsewhere, but relatively light winds under a slack pressure pattern by this stage. Again, tricky with detail, but by Sunday that's the scope for that more pronounced easterly, more widely across Britain, the cold air extending in, and the likelihood of snowfall across many eastern hills and mountains to low levels, just all piling in on that easterly conveyor belt. Driest, brightest conditions the further west that you go. So heading into the start of next week, and high pressure stays away toward the north, a strong cell of high pressure around Greenland, areas of low pressure stay toward the south, a general easterly wind is likely. There is a bit of uncertainty just how extensive this easterly regime is as we go onwards into next week, whether little centres of low pressure further south, a bit like at the moment, just spin themselves into the story and mean that it wouldn't be quite as extensively cold, but we'll watch that one carefully. The main message, I think, is a cold one though, with the scope for further snowfalls and frozen terrain well onwards into next week and likely the middle of February. That's how things look on the pressure anomaly for the week as a whole through until the 15th of February, and that shows the big zone of higher than average pressures existing away towards the north and northwest of Britain. A real classic looking chart if you want a cold pattern coming in out of Scandinavia, so that all looks pretty convincing for an ongoing cold wintry spell right into the middle of the month. Stay up to date with all our content, of course, every day on the MWIS website. Enjoy your local conditions if you can. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.